Welcome to the Money Pig podcast, presented by Goodwin Investment Advisory, where our mission is to lead you to financial pig, peace, independence, and generosity. I'm your host, Tim Goodwin. Well, welcome back to the Money Pig, what's this called? Podcast. So on today's episode, I'm super excited that we have somebody who I mention all the time, our content creator, the one, the only, Tara Bruce. Super excited to have you, Tara.
Thanks, Tim. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell the audience something that they don't know about you, Tara.
Oh, something they don't know about me? The audience might not know. I do a lot of healing work, and I love to teach people the art of being present.
Yeah. Finding their true essence, being their true self. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great, because I think it's going to tie into today's topic a whole lot, which tell them what the topic is today, Tara.
Well, it's the Hygge, or the art of coziness, and it's a Danish word because the Danes are known to be some of the happiest people in the world.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So before we dive into that, Tara, I've got a question for you. Which side of a turkey has the most feathers?
The tail? I have no idea.
The outside.
Oh, well, that makes sense. I didn't think about the inside.
Sorry, we just had, it's a tradition I have to get a nice little dad joke out of the way. But hey, thanks for joining us. I think really if we start with the end in mind, with kind of talking about learning from the Danes about happiness, learning about things like coziness, it's really kind of encouraging our clients to be aware of this, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just money that makes you happy. It's not just having a good job that makes you happy. There's something about your environment and being aware of that. Angela, our producer who's here, she was just reminding us as we were kind of prepping for the show that we take really a lot of pride in that in our office. Mm-hmm. You can see maybe some of the backgrounds here. And if we could pan the camera, you'd see like a beautiful open workspace that we have here. We're real intentional about the colors, about using real wood and real countertops, and being very intentional about creating an irresistible work environment, because I believed when I, bought and designed this building that your environment had a lot to do with how it made you feel. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's very true.
So before we kind of break down this article, this blog that you wrote about the art of coziness that our listeners can get access to in the show notes, I'd love for you to share about a recent trip that you just had. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I really wanted to experience the magic of winter and to experience the art of coziness firsthand. So
I feel like to get the magic of winter, you need snow.
Yeah.
Right?
I did have some snow.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I actually went to Copenhagen, Denmark, and got to...
And to be clear, we're in Atlanta, folks. We're not that close to Copenhagen.
No.
So just got on a plane.
Yeah. So I flew to Copenhagen, and I got to truly experience this like storybook magical winter wonderland.
Tell us about it. What'd you see?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, every single door and window is framed with fresh cut pine.
Wow.
With fairy lights.
Like not plastic.
No, it's
okay.
real. So you can smell it in the air, and every chair is hugged with a cozy wool blanket. I mean, everywhere you go.
Like at the restaurants or
every
whatever.
restaurant, every outdoor space, there's real fires, real dripping candles in every window and on every table. And it just feels like home.
There's something about a candle, right? And the flame and just like the warmth, even like you just find yourself staring at a simple little candle. So yeah, that's cool.
It felt really magical. And then my other favorite thing is I'm going to hold this mug just to like say, explain how I felt. But at the Christmas markets, you get a real mug. So not a fake one or a plastic one or a paper one, but a real warm mug filled with glögg, which is mulled wine.
Ooh,
and I think they put schnapps or they put rum in it and like raisins and almonds and spices. And it smells like Christmas in a cup.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
so they hand you that while you're shopping.
Yeah. And you can get it filled up at different shops and keep the mug. And
oh, very cool. Yeah. I get frustrated when I get coffee at a coffee shop and I forget to tell them that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to stay here, put in a mug, and they hand it to you, in a paper cup. And you're like, dang it. What's interesting is I've done this exercise with clients over the years where I would lay out on the whole conference room table, like all these postcards of all these different pictures, some of them around the world, but some were different things. And I'd ask each client to pick 5 cards that kind of like elicited retirement for them, what they dreamed of retirement being. And I'm telling you, the most popular card that was picked was a picture of coffee in a coffee mug sitting on a table. because there's this feeling of like slowing down, right? Sitting down and enjoying a cup of coffee, maybe with my loved one, maybe just in silence, maybe outside, maybe inside, maybe with others. But it was so interesting to me what it wasn't because they're all like, oh, I'm just a coffee lover and I'm a coffee snob. That's not what they said. It was the feeling that went with life is slower and I can sit down and just, like you were saying earlier, be present.
Yeah. And I think that's my favorite part of winter. I used to not like winter because it's cold, but it's so important. So it's important for all of us to go through every season. And there's something really magical about winter, and it teaches us to slow down. And you can learn that from the trees. Like in fall, they lose all the leaves. It's beautiful, glorious release. And then from there, you move into winter where there's no growth. And sometimes we need to go through seasons of not growing, which is very opposite of our culture.
Right.
You know, we have to always be chasing that, you know, proverbial carrot. But there's something magical about winter, which reminds you, slow down, be present, enjoy like the simple moments, maybe linger longer after dinner. Yeah. Play a game, hold a warm cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had actually written this down to share as like my gratitude part at the end, but it's kind of appropriate to bring up now. And in a way, I've gotten there now where I'm grateful for the shorter days that winter brings. You know, I think it used to frustrate me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving the office and it's already dark, you know, and we live on a small farm in the country of north of Atlanta. And there's always stuff to do outside, right? Like there's a fence to mend, there's something to do with some animals. And it initially was a little frustrating to me because by the time I get home, it's like it's pitch dark. You know, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like get a headlamp? Now I will put a headlamp on and I will fix the fence if I need to. But what I've appreciated is it kind of forces me to stay inside, you know, more with the family, or just to be outside for very short stints. It's cold, it's windy, it could be raining, it's certainly dark. So, so now I've gotten to the point where I'm actually grateful for the short days and the longer nights, because it does lead to, we're playing games more often. We're catching up on Christmas movies right now because it's the Christmas season. We've got a wood burning fireplace. So we're cranking through that quite a bit, because just that feeling of the fireplace and hearing the crackle is nice too.
Yeah. And there are some studies, you might want to look it up to see, but they have tried to allow some trees to not fully hibernate to see if they can
I've heard about
increase some like adrenaline or something. And they did this study and they showed that these trees, without going through hibernation in winter, didn't actually last as long as they would have normally or as other trees.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think within like that second year, they end up not surviving. I don't think they last much longer, even past the second year, if they don't get that kind of winter
rest.
And
then of course, you know, the trees will bloom in spring and it's beautiful. They'll bud and blossom. But just a reminder, sometimes like we're going to grow. We're going to continue to grow, but sometimes just to kind of
nice to take that breather and appreciate the different stage of life. Yeah. All right. We'll break down some of the things that you share. Well, sorry, was there anything else from your trip that you wanted to share?
I think I shared everything from the trip. I mean, it was just magical. If you ever want to see a Christmas market in either Copenhagen or even Katowice, Poland, it was just wonderful. And
you know, one memory you shared, from that trip with me that I remember, you were sitting maybe a little bit higher up. You were inside, but you were looking out a window, and then you were seeing kind of the families go by. Maybe it was snowing.
Yeah, that was the last day, and they had a window that was shaped like a circle, and you could just sit in the window and watch the families and watch all the fairy lights. And I don't know, it just seemed so magical. And I actually got to read a book. I mean, sometimes it's just nice to actually go on a trip. I always say, I'm going to read this book, because I'm going on this trip and I'll pack it and I'll do so much stuff like adventure. Right. This trip, no. I was like, really? I have to actually read.
Right. Yeah. It might take that for me. I'm just like burning through audibles right now, because to slow down enough to open up a book, I'll probably just fall asleep if I'm not well rested. So.
And even like the hotel did not feel like a normal hotel. It felt like a home. There was multiple fireplaces burning with chairs around it, and it felt like you were in your grandma's house. Yeah. And so everyone was just kind of gathered in different spaces, and no one's in their rooms. Like the whole lobby was packed with people in all different places. And
wild.
I don't know. It was
maybe we need to do that. Install a wood burning fireplace in here. Yeah. Angela's laughing at me. So man, I was like, it's like what we're missing. But we do want people, when they walk into the office, it doesn't feel plastic.
Yeah.
It feels personal. It feels like walking into somebody's like foyer.
Yeah.
It
and you
feels
feel at
warm
home.
and it makes it more warm and inviting.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us some about what you've got, like a teaser, so that they're going to go, you know what? I want to read this thing Tara wrote on coziness.
One thing I know Tim always talks about too is gratitude. And that's something that's a huge practice for me as well. But not just like feeling gratitude and choosing the things that you're grateful for, but actually expressing gratitude takes it to a whole nother level. So finding little ways in the winter season to reach out to someone and send them a card, like write a handwritten note, call them on the phone. Yeah.
Now, something I've learned from you about like they can measure the frequency of gratitude in your brain versus the frequency, say, of fear.
Right, exactly.
And I think you might have been the first one I ever heard from that said, when you're feeling fearful, if you can start to express gratitude, it's almost like they can't coexist in your brain based on the frequencies. Whatever it is, it's true. You know what I mean? And if you're real fearful about something, you're all worked up, you're making bad decisions, switching to this mindset of gratitude is like a really great medicine for it, I think.
Yeah, it's super powerful. So you can't, they cannot coexist in your brain at the same time. It's so fantastic. So if you're fearful, choose something you're grateful for or switch your perspective. Like, how is this happening for me and not to me? Can change everything.
My wife, Maureen, she, it's, still a work in progress. Her trying to teach this to me that like to try to see the gift in everything.
Yes.
Like there's some kind of gift in it.
And there's even the magic in the mundane. And I think that's even another part of finding the coziness is if you're willing to notice it, you'll always see magic everywhere because what you look for, you find.
Yeah.
So like looking for the magic, even in the season of winter, if it's not a season you love or enjoy, like just like finding those moments.
So what are some of these things that you think that like you mentioned the Danes are known as some of the happiest people in the world. What are some things that Americans can learn from the Danes when it comes to happiness?
I think for sure slow down.
Yeah.
But they don't, I think we forget, I always say it backwards, like we either live to work and they work to play, or I forget which way it is, but they have
it's like we live to work around here instead of work to live.
Right. Exactly. And so it's not like that there. So I really enjoyed that. I actually got to speak to a couple people that lived there and kind of ask them feedback too. And so it is really expensive to visit Copenhagen, just a warning. But when I asked one of the drivers in my taxi, I said, is it expensive for you? And he said, oh, no, we get paid really, really well here. So no one's really super worried about money, and all of the things that matter, like the foundational things like healthcare and all those things are taken care of. So he said for tourists, it's really expensive here, but it's not bad for us.
He's like, we appreciate that. Keep coming back.
Right.
Hoping it be more affordable.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, my wife, Maureen, and I just got back from Nairobi, Kenya. And I noticed how happy in general they were too.
Yes.
And one of my takeaways was that they have a much deeper awareness and concept of enough.
Yeah.
Where I don't feel like we do. And so a lot of folks would just work until they made enough money and then they stopped and went home, even if it was like 11 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think often as Americans, we just keep working and working because we might make more money if we work more. And we do typically make more money if we work more. That more money lets us buy more stuff. And if we're not careful, it kind of owns it and leads to more stress and responsibility keeping up with it. So I think there is something to take away from that concept of I just need to make enough and defining what enough is.
Yeah, that's very true. I think they live a lot more simple. Well, maybe finding what really matters.
They're in Nairobi too. They're and maybe it's all of Africa. I apologize. This is the only place in Africa I've been, but they're outside all the time.
Oh yeah.
I think just being outside, let alone vitamin D
that's
from
one
the
of my
sun
favorite
on your
things.
skin, but just being outside and then they're talking. And so like their commerce and their social, opportunities are all really interwoven. Everybody just seems to be outside for a good bit of day. I mean, they don't have a lot of air conditioning, so I can't blame them for wanting to be out, but I think that contributes to it too. I just was so surprised driving around Nairobi, like thousands and thousands of people I would see every time we went somewhere. We're like, you can drive around here from work to home and barely see anybody outside. We go from our climate controlled offices to our climate controlled cars to our climate controlled homes. or not outside a whole lot. I mean, when you drive by, you see all the Christmas lights out. You're like, when did you do that? Like, so rare to even see somebody putting up Christmas lights.
Yeah. And they have like a sense of community aspect in a lot of these other countries where, like you're saying, you see everyone outside, but they're spending so much time with each other. It's not as independent of a society. So
what else do you want to share about your article?
So some of the things that you can do, like we've already mentioned, is creating a nourishing space. Making your own space cozy at home. So you feel really excited to be in it, start a fire, burn candles, and don't wait to burn all the candles. Like don't put them in a closet and hide them away. Like actually light the candles, get out the good stuff,
Yeah.
I think we always wait for these special occasions, but every moment you're alive is a special occasion. So, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then, like just sometimes it's just eating warm, cozy foods, like make a stew.
Right. You don't have to eat
simple.
That cold soup from the fridge and warm it up. You deserve to eat warm soup.
And then like, I was saying the candlelight, but even just watching a fire, there's something magical about sitting by a fire, watching the magic in that moment, enjoying it with loved ones, play a game.
That's awesome.
Nature is also part of it. So you mentioned that earlier, but it's very grounding to spend time in nature, even when it's cold. But go outside. It's invigorating. If it's snowing where you live, we live in Georgia, so maybe not, but make some snow angels.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and it's interesting about like when people think about even like reconnecting with their faith or with God, they want to go for a walk in the woods. They want to go outside.
Yeah.
We do a day of solitude here. I offer that as a day to all the team. It doesn't count against your PTO. It's like an extra PTO day. And most of the time when the team shares about their day of solitude, they went outside, I think that's really interesting. We also, Angela had reminded us about, we have a Christmas tree day, aka mental health day. But nowadays when it's the season of Christmas, it's, Angela has a beautiful Christmas tree. So she dedicates a whole day just stare at that sucker. You probably have a fire going too, though, on the side, don't you? She's like,
you should call it the Hygge Day. It's like you can hug your Christmas tree. Because I think hug came from
that may not
Hygge,
feel quite as good as you might be imagining.
It's not the same as hugging other trees.
Oh my gosh.
And I do that. So
yeah. Do you cut your own tree down?
We did get a real one this year.
Yeah.
We didn't cut it down this time.
Yeah.
We have done that in the past.
Right.
But we're going to Florida, which is the opposite of.
Yes, that's right. I heard that. And so Maureen is really into flocking the Christmas tree.
Okay.
So like just started last year and now we've done it this year. So, but yeah, we get a fresh tree and then flock it. So it's got all the smells and the looks. Yeah. This nice to stare at those trees. It's kind of a wild thing to try to describe. Like we're bringing this tree inside and we're decorating it, but it really is beautiful.
But even every aspect of being present is so important. Like you can figure out different ways that connects you to your senses. And that's also another way that you can. So like you were talking about the smell of the tree.
Right.
But like what things can you bring into your space that ties you to memories, like smells or foods, or like the coziness of the Danes with those wool blankets. It's the texture. And so it's all of those things, kind of like surrounding yourself with all of that.
Yeah, very cool. I got Maureen a couple years ago. I forget what it's called. We got it at Tractor Supply. It's one of these like outdoor little contained fires that's got a tall smokestack on it. So, but it's pellet driven. Okay. And so you have these wood pellets. She just dumps it in the back, lights it. She closes the little front. There's glass. But I brought it back out for her last night. And we were, sharing a little drink and a cigar last night, talking about the day, and we got the thing lit up outside. And it's just, even just having that nice little contained, it's better than us plugging in a heater or something like that, electric heater, like having that wood
has more of an ambiance
pellet
and a warmth to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool. So is there any like practice that you maybe would recommend to somebody listening who's like, man, I'm go. Like, I don't feel like I'm connected with nature or happy, or I can be present.
Yeah. Like there's a simple tool that even I teach my kids. I use like the 5 senses as part of it. So they're in order of intimacy. So taste is like the most intimate sense. So find one thing you can taste. And then there's like 2 things you can, I think the next one is, it's not smell. Maybe it is.
Feel, touch.
Yeah. So I was like, there's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So like, I think it's 5 things you can see, which is the least intimate sense, which is interesting because we are such a visual culture.
Right.
But like notice 5 things. And then what are 4 things you can touch? What are 3 things you can hear? What is 2 things you can smell? And what is 1 thing you can taste? So just that little practice can sometimes be super helpful because it's it's easy to remember, but you can sit there and start noticing. So I think that's the beginning, is when you can start noticing something, then you start feeling it. And then once you start feeling it, it kind of gets inside of you and then you get into that Christmas spirit. But I mean, a simple thing.
I appreciate you. Like I did not think you were going to say that, know? So that's what's so great is how unique that is, but it's like an assault on all your senses. It's like just reprogramming yourself to really be present, to experience all these things. And it's all these senses going after it. So that's super duper cool. Yeah. Any final things here on the art of coziness?
No, just enjoy it. I think my message would be slow down, rest a little bit. Don't pressure yourself to do too much because being is very important. And I don't know, maybe it's a time for reflection or just enjoying the loved ones around you, enjoying your family and your environment and making it feel cozy.
Yeah, I love it. Well, hey, grateful for you, for the content you create and just kind of the spirit that you bring and kind of a different way of thinking things. Probably not, very typical for somebody to listen to a financial advisor sponsored podcast and to hear about the art of coziness and some of these things you shared. So, but I'm grateful for that perspective that you bring. I did share earlier about gratitude that I am grateful for these shorter days. Do you want to share any particular thing you're grateful for?
I'm just grateful for the trip, like itself, to actually experience that magic. And it really brought me into the Christmas winter spirit. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, so if folks that are listening, if they want to find out more about Goodwin Investment Advisor, they can go to goodwininvestment.com. They can click on schedule an intro call. Who are they going to talk to, Tara?
Me.
They're going to talk to you most of the time. Yeah. At this point. So if you're not ready to, schedule an intro call, please subscribe to our blog. This is our blog. Readers, have already gotten the art of coziness over the years. Tara's actually updating this. This is an important thing to her. But there's a lot of helpful content that she creates. And if you listen to other episodes, we've got guides as well. So highly, highly recommend for you to engage with us if you're ready. Tara, thank you so much. We hope you come back sometime soon.
Look forward to talking to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Money Pig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To stay updated on new episodes, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you found value in today's discussion, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about the topics we covered, feel free to visit us at goodwininvestment.com and reach out. This episode is produced by evance.net. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice, a solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles, nor as a basis for making any financial decisions. Goodwin Investment Advisory is a registered investment advisor with the SEC, CRD number 131193. Please note that the host and or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investments mentioned in this podcast. Investments carry risk and are not guaranteed unless stated otherwise. We strongly recommend consulting with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategies discussed in this episode. Lastly, past performance is not indicative of future results.